Bravehearts, Urbanites, Coach Mad Hatters, Vineyard Creatrix, and Crimson VIPs. Welcome to my Thursday, September 22, 2022 at 8:07 a.m. DMV Standard Time. This is going to be bittersweet. It's going to be bittersweet because once again, I have returned with a different point of view than most. Once again, I am being challenged to speak when I really don't want to because inside of my lazy brain it says motherfuckers gonna think the way they want things. So what's the point? Like, what is the point? And from the moment I said that, it honestly has been plaguing my mind frequency. Like, I can't think about nothing else. So it almost feels like the the cat that I want to ignore. And it's like, no, I'm trying to communicate with you and I need you to respond. Or the puppy that needs to go outside and it's like, or is hungry and it's like, okay, through my presence, if you are paying attention enough, you would know I need you to respond. So here we are. And to affirm things even more, I have the cards in my hands because usually when I am approaching uh, a segment and I'm not quite clear of what it is that I'm really truly coming to speak about, I will pick up the cards. I consult the cards to see if it will give me some clues or some cues by which to speak. And right off the break, the Eight of Wands and the Strength card just flies out. And so now those are the two cards that are before me. And that's enough. That's enough to get right into what I initially pressed record for. So, as I tell my children, let's talk about it. Let's lean into it and let's talk about it. I have been finding out that there is strength in the spaces where we are allowed to speak freely. And it's not by secret or unaligned consequence that many are punished for speaking indifferently to that which is the most popular. And so, like Kiera Orlean say, I'm here for it. She say, I'm here for it. So, in the wise words of the Tarot Oracle at Sunflower Tarot, I'm here for it. So here's the thing. Now the hot topic is the Woman King. And I even hesitate even in this moment because it's like I don't necessarily pride myself in talking about pop culture, but that's what's around us, right? Generation after generation after generation. That is what has been around us. So to honor the Strength card being the second card out amongst the first on the board, I am going to lead with a book called The Origin of Occult Civilization, Volume 1, Hollywood, written by Brother Panic. Let's see if we can let's see if we can get the publishing information. January 1st, 2015. So all of my astrologers out there, we know what was going on with the energies at the brink of the calendar year in 2015. Or we have the notes, or we have the means to go and pull up the data, go digging in the crates for the archives. Two things that I need to make sure stay ahead of this segment, and that is make believe inside of Hollywood, as well as the continental USA is going through its Pluto return. It is being challenged on an energetic level. So, of course, all constituents involved is going to feel this shakeup. They're going to feel it in all sorts of ways. Between the first of 2018 and the end of 2019 and my YouTube channel, the birth of my YouTube channel and everything that I was talking about during that time spoke about this right now, where we are in a timeline when we are attempting and striving and struggling to unlearn what we had have been programmed and to rearrange these things called conditionings, social conditionings. Hollywood is part of this, is probably the greatest vehicle inside of this social conditioning, also known as social engineering. And so now, here again, we have people chiming in, attempting to separate the salt from the sugar, and it's about baffling. It's always baffling. Not surprised, just baffled. Because if we was to really get to the nitty gritty, go check the credits of every single thing that has ever hit the big screen, and you will see that it's white folk all in, out, threaded all through it. So now all of a sudden, we have the conspiracy around the morphing of this particular motion picture inside of make believe. And so the creative license does not require anyone, producer, writer, creator, otherwise, to tell the actual truth. It doesn't require that. Because if that be the case, then there would be no Captain America, there would be no Sandman, there would be no Wonder Woman, there would be no Black Panther, there would be no Doctor Strange. It wouldn't be any of those. It would be no Cinderella, no Mermaid. It would be none of those. It would be no Get Out. It would be no Birth of a Nation. It would be no 12 Years a Slave. It would be no Roots. Because these are adaptations. And so I'm hearing a lot of people talk about us black kinfolk as not knowing the history. And I agree. I agree. But then I get particularly curious about all of the originals that's been burnt. Like, what history are we referring to for real? Because we're talking about libraries upon libraries of content and context that were burnt to the fucking ground. So, what are we referring to for real? And as I said again, tell me what any, and trust me, I'll wait. I have the patience of Job. Tell me what is it that has come through the channels of entertainment that was 100% factual, truthful, authentic, and wholesome. Then, if we're going to talk about digging into history, how about we take into account that we never have the history to the backdrops and the surrounding evidence and the context of anything that we consume that's been tagged entertainment. And yet again, the social structure have us on this quest to separate the salt from the sugar. We're all entwined together. Now, I'm not talking no kumbaya in this inclusivity. That's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. But the realism of understanding that the salt and the sugar are now part of one bowl, one big ass mixing bowl, that it ought to be a given when something like WomanKing comes out. Like I say, check the credits. And I will even challenge those that want to get and hone in on the backdrop of this particular production. Pull out those that you liked a lot. And I'm talking about that you liked so much when you walked away and was like, man, that was good. That was inspiring. That was motivating. Or I didn't know that. Or, or it provoked you to go dig a little deeper. Pick those out. Hand pick, cherry pick those and go check the credits. And I would even be astonished and label you a unicorn if you can gather all of the details of the behind the scenes of how it planted and sprouted and harvested from idea to big screen and all those who were involved, as well as harvest all the intentions involved in its creation and how it even made its way through. Because all stories don't make its way to the big screen. What deals were cut? Who were in the room? What were the conversations? How did it go down? Where the money come from? Who signed access to production, post production, distribution? How did it get to you? Because it's a lot of growing and a lot of cultivating of the process for it to get to you, for you to talk about it and review it or critique it or do whatever it is that you do as a consumer. So, and they love it when we get to debating about the shit they made, whether it has any type of uh, cloak and daggering essence to it. Folk been taking jabs at one of groups of folk been taking jabs at one another through Hollywood and the big screen since its inception. You really can't even get through Hollywood without an agenda. Lock, stock, and barrel. So what are we really talking about for real? And it being used as the tool to continue to separate the men from the women, that's kind of weird to me too. I don't understand it. And it might not be for me to understand. Because here's what came to mind out of meditation this morning. Thea, what if the Woman King was divinely produced so that there would be a backstory to be uncovered, so that these things could begin to take place, so that the so called black human can realize that it is still part of the unknown. It is still a people who really don't know how certain things work, whether they agree with it or disagree with it. There's still many fill in the blank moments that they must undergo and realize that there are tons of blind spots into just how things morph inside of this dimension. So, what if everything is still divinely timed? And it stumped me for a moment because it took me back to the comprehension that we are in the midst of finding out how we were truly bamboozled and how everything is an illusion. Because if we're going to start cherry picking these productions that might have some unsavory behind the scenes goings ons, then we really would have to chalk the entire Hollywood in the trash. Meaning, we don't talk about it, pay it no attention, we don't invest in it, we don't consume it, none of it. We literally ignore it as if it's romantic potential we don't want to deal with. We honestly are ingrained in consuming the productions of make believe. I too am part of that crew. There's no way around it when you think about an entire society that morphed its persona from the tools and the tricks and the treasures of Hollywood. And then if we want to get to now, we're highlighting and pointing out where the white people are. When you go flip on your switch so you can conveniently have light. How does that get to you? All of the virtual world that everybody's now taking pride in and participating in. How does it get to you? All these platforms that you pay for and you put your content on. And remember, I'm talking about me too. So these questions were posed to me. So now I'm posing it to the outerverse to see exactly what's popping. Yeah, let's talk about it. And you don't have to talk to me about it, but let's talk about it. The deals that make sure your trash get picked up, the deals that make sure you have curbside whatever, the permits, the credentials, the certificates, all of it, the agencies that produce all of it, from your traffic ticket to your plate at Roof's Chris Roofs, whatever the fuck that place name is. What is it called? Roof Chris, there we go. From the jobs you have to the mortgage, to the interest rates, to the banks where your illusional money is. Because the minute they freeze it, it ain't yours no more. So how do we reconcile the salt from the sugar? How do we begin to exist in a place where we aren't always looking for points to prove, or we're always looking for people, places, or things to point at? So, I think my greatest takeaway with this is, if this is what's going to be, I mean, and and the thing about it is, it's like, it's almost like the big wave, like, um, Jada provoking Will to slap Chris. And Kevin Samuels is elevating the agenda of the alpha black male, or the I think those are the two that right at the moment that's coming to mind. Like and what I'm pointing out is these waves of uh, which in my opinion feels like purposeful pointers, so that it can be talked about, so that a consensus can be taken inside of the virtual world. Any Most of us, the majority of us that partake in making sure that this virtual space stay alive, are not the creators, not even the stockholders. We honestly cannot go and take a peek at the behind the scenes workings of none of this stuff. So there's a blind spot there already. And yet and still, in my opinion, the whole WomanKing production still had to go down like any other production that's pumping out of the land of make believe, because it has to fight to maintain its power and status with making sure that it grabs some of your attention. Whether you went to go see it and invested in it on the back end, or you now talking about it as a result of the response of those that have seen it, whether they are praising it or denying it, whether they kissing it or dissing it. And the amazing part about it is, black men and women have been divided from inception inside of this colonial pen. So when we continue to speak about the obvious and continue to like critique it with no solution in sight, um, some weird shit to me. Some weird shit to me. And nobody's speaking about the engine. Only the symptoms as a result of the presence of the engine, but nobody's talking about the social engineering, whether it's Hollywood and the make believe and the productions thereof, or the great debates between these productions and how they are used as tools to either highlight the wretchedness of the woman or highlight the wretchedness of the man. Either way, like Cat Williams say, either way we fucking. Either way. So, and I've been shuffling all along and no other cards have come out. So that leads me to believe that this is the conclusion of this spiel. And I just, um, I just remain curious. And so I'm going to close out with a little piece that I wrote, and it's still rather raw data. So it's not complete, but I got the hunch that it will do very well as a closeout for this segment. And so it's called Inhibition Off. Once upon a time, there was this dilemma that kept arresting the development of her heart's desires. How does one's manifestos come to life? At the precise moment, toward and or upon the person, place, or things that help to properly preserve for the sake of what's honestly deserved and reserved. Where do broken hearts go with all of its baggage in tow? Is there a place for repairing the despair away from anyone with the narrow mind frames pushing goals to go, go, go? The GoPro isn't everyone's trajectory, says the tree to the raging river.